You have some deck-splaining to do, sir. You need to give a deck-splanation for your deck's actions. For my deck's actions. I need to explain my deck's actions. Okay. Anyways, so this is going to be the deck-splanation. We're going to shoot through this because this deck is pretty simple. And then we're going to put up a goldfish, and then we're going to get ready to go play some games. So, you should have seen this. The deck list is in the description down there. Deck list in the description. Click on it. It'll take you to Maxfield where you can see all of our wonderful decks. Oh boy. Alright, so let's get right into this. Without further ado. Okay, so our mana base. Let's talk and explain the mana base. I think that's the best place to start. So we will do that. Let's talk about the mana base. Whys, the wheres. You know what? I consider these kind of like a mana base. Alright, so we're going to keep those in there. Put those at the back. So, this deck, to me, is a storm deck. Storm light. It storms as much as storm can do, and it's a little bit of a whack deck, too. It's a wacky storm. So we have 3 abundant harvests, okay? And this is going to act as a land and a very blunt tool of fetching, as it were, lands and or non-land spells. So, this is a wonderful thing in the deck because I would find when I was running 17 lands, I would have too many lands, not enough lands. So with this somehow can kind of somewhat fix us. And it also, if we didn't draw a land for turn, it is going to act as a spell that we can say land, play our land for turn, have that mana, so that in turn this plays for itself. Plus, it hits our storm count. So if we do not draw land for turn, but we have an abundant harvest in hand or we draw one, we can get it, play it, get the storm count for it, get a land onto the board. So that is kind of nice how it, in a way, pays for itself. So we run 3 of those, and they act as lands. That's why I keep them in the mana base like this, because I think of them as lands. And if you don't need land, say something else, and pretty much anything you get is going to be useful in this deck. So that's Abundo Harvo, man. Abundo Harvo. We have Stomping Ground as a fetchable land, and we are running 4 stomp. Oh, of course. All right. Anyways, how did this happen? Okay, very far, man. All right, not so bad. Okay, there's a Stomping Ground somewhere. There it is. All right, so our fetchable lands. Stomping Grounds in 1 forest. So we have 5 fetchable targets, okay? Stomping Ground. Nice to fetch this on opponent's turn so it can enter untapped because, like, say we want to play this turn 1. With this deck, you're not going to necessarily have, like, a need for mana on turn 1 a lot of the time. But if you do, you can pay the 2 life. But generally, if you get this in your hand turn 1, go ahead and just play it tapped, unless you have something that you're going to do. And I know that makes sense in a lot of things, but don't give life willy-nilly in this deck. Just because. I always say that, but with Stomping Ground, you can definitely fetch it up on your opponent's turn, let it enter tapped. Because you're not looking to do like that kind of fast action where it's like get one up on. Unless you're playing against like a super fast type deck. But if you're playing against a fast deck like Burn, we have ways to deal with that don't necessarily involve whacking ourselves for 2 to get Stomping Ground in. So 1 fetchable forest. We have Wooded Foothills, a woodsy foothills. And I think I've done a little bit of talking about this because I love this bit of flavor text. Where dragons' breath once burned, their bones now freeze. Where dragons once roared, their bones now keen. I just love this. I think the Khans of Tarkir, I don't know. I like that era. I love the set symbol too. I think the rare set symbol looks so good. I don't know. Something about it. Just got a soft spot for Khans of Tarkir. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fetch lands. And as you see here, we have these red targets. We have 1, 2, 2 simply what are red targets. And these, 2 Wooded Foothills would be nice there. But I like having these fetches because, again, like I like to confuse my opponents. In my fetch lands, when I go from different game store to game store and game nights to game nights, whatever I'm doing, I oftentimes will switch up my fetch lands because not playing blue and pretty much playing in a certain colors, you can kind of do that, get away with it. But anyways, I digress. We are running, like I said, I think it was 16 lands, and then 19 with our abundant harvests. So I just found that was really good. We weren't getting land flooded, we weren't getting land blocked. And then, kind of as like a fixer, Chromatic Star I love in this deck. Some people run 4 of them. I like 2. A lot of people running 4 of these are not running Mishra's Bauble, or if they are, they're running 3 or 2. So in similar decks, you'll see 4 of these or not at all. But what this does here, that Sacrifice Star at 1 mana of any color, and then when it's put into the graveyard from the battlefield, draw a card. Really good. You get card draw, you get the mana, so that ability there is free. It's essentially like a 1 mana card draw that pays for itself with mana when you tap and sack. Even though you have to pay to get that mana. Kind of strange, but I feel like with what this deck does, I think Chromatic Star is very good in it. Especially if you need like 1 green mana. For some reason, your tappers are not, up for giving you green mana. This definitely comes in handy. But it's definitely one of the first to be sideboarded also. So good to think on there. So for our free spells, we run 20 free spells in this deck. Because this is not a whack deck. I gotta say that again. I gotta keep saying that because I'm getting a lot of emails saying like, hey, whack, whack. And no whack. It's kind of, but it kind of is more of a storm deck. So what we're wanting to do is play as much things as we can on our turn. So we have Ornithopter 4. I'm sorry. Look at that. Mishra's Bauble. Where'd you come from? All right. 4 Ornithopters. And there's that Wayfaring Bauble there. All right. So our free spells, Memnites and Ornithopters. And to hold up the program real quick, for probably about 3 weeks straight, I played where no Chromatic Stars. I was playing with 17 lands, and I pulled something. I think I was playing with 2 Thrastas, but I was using 2 Scale Ups, and I was trying to hit these Ornithopters with those, and it was working because these are flyers, so you get a 6/4 worm. And even one time I did the overload of Scale Up, which is everything becomes a 6/4 worm. So that was pretty cool. But it didn't happen a lot, and it became like a kind of a dead spell, like it wasn't doing anything for our end game, so to speak. I think one time I turned an Ornithopter into a green worm in a game, and then I was able to tap it for the green mana to evoke Imperial. However, it just seems kind of like redundant. It's better to just get these out, sack them, and use them for that way. The Goblin Army, get some squirrel tokens. So we want to get the dinosaurs out. That's what we want to do. So I've tried bumping these with things and going that route. And it is fun, but I think not for this deck. And I think it could be effective in a different strategy. Like if you were running like an infect kind of thing, using this to hit like that damage, like kind of treating this like an infect creature, like bumping it like one would like Ink Moth or something. But not in this deck. So Ornithopter can become like a 1/3 when we use the Bushwhacker. But beyond that, we kind of keep these little robots in their lane. So Baubles are going to keep cards in our hands, and also just excellent for something to help us get Thrasta's costs down. So Manamorphose is a wonderful... Anybody that watches my channel really knows this is probably one of my favorite cards in Magic the Gathering. I love Manamorphose. I think this is one of my favorite cards in the format. Any format. But in Modern, I absolutely love Manamorphose. If I can play Manamorphose in a deck, it is in a deck. So out of 10 decks that I play right now, in 4 of those decks, I run 4 Manamorphose. So that's how much I love it. just because it pays for itself. You get to fix your mana and draw a card. It is so good. I cannot stress enough how good this card is. Just love it. And Mini Morphos here. Mini Morphos, the human shaman here. When Burning Tree Emissary enters the battlefield, add red and green to your mana pool. So that's good. It kind of does pay for itself, but here's the deal. Let's get up a dummy hand here. Let's say it's turn 3 for you. And this is what you got in your hand. So what would you do? Do you tap, play Mana Morphos, draw a card, then play Burning Tree Emissary? Absolutely not. What you always will do, okay, is you will play... How did I say that? Hold on. What I meant... Okay, I got this right. I'm sorry. Okay, always play Burning Tree Emissary first to play into Mana Morphos. Because then you get 2 mana and any combination of colors to your mana pool, opposing to getting a red and a green, because 2 green is what we need to get our dinos. So with Mana Morphos, we can always say 2 green, unless for some reason we may not need it. But with this, we are always hemped up into being in this world of red and green when we want 2 green. So Burning Tree will always precede Mana Morphos. And Mana Morphos should always follow Burning Tree. You should never, if these 2 are in your hand, never, ever, under any circumstances, should you ever, except maybe 1%, 2% of the time, play this before this. Only if... I'll think of an instance. Okay, so here's an instance I can think of, because this has happened before. So with like Bushwhacker, right? So if we're going to pay this for its surge cost, okay? If your teammate has cast another spell this turn, you can pay it, do the surge cost. So when the Bushwhacker enters the battlefield, if the surge cost was paid, other creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain haste until end of turn. So in that instance, to play this first, what I guess if you wanted to somehow like tap this for like a specific like green, because it is both green and red, or it is either green or it is either red. I guess in that instance maybe, but I honestly can't think of a good reason to go ahead and play that Burning Tree before you want to play another like Mana Morphos. So let's get organized here real quick. Get our Mana Morphos in order. So those are our free spells. Like I said, we have 20 of those free spells. And the Mana Morphos there. Okay. And the Mana Morphos. And there they are. All right. So here's our free spells. And again, 20 of these. But you could do a little less. And if I was to cut these, I would say the cutting would probably begin like this. Just like with sideboarding. Maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. Maybe I'll just let you guys know how I sideboard when we get to there. But moving on, I will show you as we come to it. But now, this is kind of the more exciting part. There you just saw like the utility toolbox. So where does the things really happen here? Here we have our main deck, Gleeful Demolition and Kuldotha Rebirth. Kuldotha is not as good of a card, in my opinion, as Gleeful Demolition, because destroy target artifact. If you controlled that artifact, create 3 1/1 red Phyrexian Goblin creature tokens. So, what's great about this and not this is this says to cast Kuldotha Rebirth as the additional cost, sacrifice an artifact. So you sacrifice an artifact, or you destroy one with Gleeful Demolition. I like Kuldotha Rebirth. The card is cool. I have nostalgic feelings for it. It's actually more collectible and more expensive than these. 3 of these is the cost of 1 of these. However, this is better because say we play something, and just like I had happen, I had the goblins, okay, and I was going to play Imperiosaur, and my opponent played Pithing Needle and said Imperiosaur. And I'm like, or I'm sorry, not Pithing Needle, it was Void Mirror. So I got Void Mirrored, and was that what it was? Something, but I destroyed the artifact. See, this was about a month ago. But I ended up using this actually to destroy their artifact. So I destroyed target artifacts so I could unhamper myself and do what I wanted to do. Yeah, it wasn't wasn't Pithing Needle. It was oh gosh, it was Void Mirror. Um, no, man, I'm having a brain fart here. What the heck was it? No, it was Void Mirror, wasn't it? Yes, because yeah, because the Convoke thing. Um, Pretty sure that's what it was. I wish I could remember. That's a game I wish I would have got on camera, to be honest, but I didn't. In any case, I digress. I wish I could remember what that card was. It was, but it had shut down my Imperiosaur, and a smirking Heffrey said, I choose Imperiosaur. But what was it? That something, I don't know. It was something that kept me from casting Imperiosaur. But in any case, moving along. In long story short, I was able to many times over use Gleeful Demolition to my advantage. But that was a time where it was most to my advantage because I had to unhamper myself to get my game plan going. So I like Gleeful Demolition better. Chatterstorm's creating green squirrel tokens. And why is that better? Green squirrels convoke Imperiosaur for green. So as we look at Imperiosaur, Convoke, it's got 2 green in its casting cost. So each creature you tap while casting this spell pays for 1 or 1 mana of that creature's color. So we have green, green covered. That covers that. So with goblins, we can just totally cover this. So these, coupled with a Kuldotha Rebirth, that is going to mean essentially for 1 mana of any color, if we have 6 of these on the board, we can cast our Imperiosaur just by convoking, which will be then an 18/18. But if we can do the wonderful thing, the beautiful thing, and convoke this for 7 like that, then we have a 20/20 with trample and a ward 2. So in any case, these are going to be how we produce our convoking engine, basically. Our engine to convoke the beast. Le beast. So, the big beast. This is how we convoke the beast. Alright. And yes, so, as you see, there's 8 of these, but there's 1 in the sideboard, and we got a Kuldotha in the trunk there. And we'll get into that in a second here, but let's talk about our creatures that are not free. They're not just to produce mana. They're our mainstay creatures that really, really do things for us. So this Reckless Bushwhacker, if we pay the surge cost, it's going to give all of our creatures haste. So when Reckless Bushwhacker enters the battlefield, if the surge cost was paid, other creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain haste until end of turn. So absolutely wonderful. About turn 2, we can make some wonderful things happen with that haste. Turn 3, okay, we can get our squirrels out, storm out some squirrels. And immediately we can utilize them for their convoke and then get our big dinosaur out. Get that big dinosaur. Just so. And I definitely like Reckless Bushwhacker better because something's always, we're never casting this for that cost. And that double red in this deck, like if this deck wasn't so green, double red would be good. But double red is not good. The Goblin Bushwhacker's double red cost, I don't like it. I feel like it's more restricting. So if I have to choose one or the other, I'm going to choose this one with the surge cost. Plus, getting that +1/+0, it's kind of silly, but that will give at least 1 point of attack damage to the Ornithopters and 1 point to add on to the Memnite. So we're running these Bushwhackers, and if you felt like you wanted to add more red to this deck, you could add a couple Goblin Bushwhackers, but then it's going to become more of a whack deck, you know what I mean? So we're moving away from being more like summon the dinosaurs with the robots, so to speak. So we have Ancient Imperiosaur, which is kind of our prima donna in the deck. It's our golden pig, if you will. Running 4 of those, we have this nice full art one there. Love these full art cards. Very rare cards, I think, because especially the full art foils, because they're so unique to those collector packs. Just I do like the full arts. Let's see here. So 4 of those is essential. There's no reason not to run 4. We never sideboard this guy here. So Thrasta, Tempest Roar. Now this is the one that's controversial in the deck. But to me, this is just standard. Like, this should be in the deck. I mean, I don't see why not. We're playing free spells. So turn 3, okay, with mana up, if we got 2 green available and 1 red or green, whatever. With all these free spells, with 20 free spells, this is so doable. But 3 is the magic number. 3 is the number. Do not be tempted to put 4 in the deck. Do not. I've tried it. I've tried 4. I've tried 2. Do you remember Thrastavan Goyf? Remember Thrastavan? Remember those decks? I have played the dookie out of this card, so to speak. I have absolutely played the heck out of it and exploited it in every way I could figure, and I can tell you, do not put 4 of these in this deck. Or any of them. 3 is the magic number. And even 3, like it's not unheard of for me to once in a while sideboard one of these. So keep that in mind. Speaking of sideboards, let's go there now. All right, where you at, sideboard? Under all these tokens. All right. Ding, ding, ding. Similarly with tokens, it's good to have these tokens here. A treasure token. We can use the back side here if we want to add 2 red for some weird reason. 2 green, mana of any color from the treasure. So keep tokens to represent mana. It's very good to do that, because you're not always going to be writing down your mana in a notebook. But if you do, I recommend it. Very good to write stuff down. So let's get into that sideboard. And 2 lightning bolts to deal with problems. I ran some gut shot, but gut shot did more damage than it did good, because paying the life was what we wanted to do with gut shot. And you do 2 damage to us, and we do 1 damage and remove a creature, which was okay. But it'd do 2 damage to us. And if we paid the 1 mana, it's like I found myself, like, more often than not, like, well, I might as well pay the 1 red. So 2 lightning bolts went in here, and I feel that's good. And like going up against burn or something, Weather the Storm is great, because we can gain like a good 12 life, like turn 3 or 4 if we need it. And that really will hem down our opponent, especially like a deck like Burn trying to take us down quick, you know what I mean? So Destructive Revelry. I was running 3 in here. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. Destructive Revelry deals 2 damage to that permanent's controller. So I like that 2 damage. I like the target artifact or enchantment. Now, a card like, let's see here. It's that Oath of the Gatewatch. I just was talking about it on the channel. It's right here. Natural State. A card like this would be great in here as well. The only reason I'm not running it in here is because that right there, 3 or less, being that this deck lasts a little longer on the board and it doesn't seek to win as quickly as some decks, even though it can, definitely. I find that we're dealing with artifacts with a higher casting cost. So it's definitely good to, I think, go in with that Destructive Revelry. So that's a great card to put in the deck if you feel like you can come against some enchantments. For Graveyard Hate, we want Tormod's Crypt, because this is a 0 mana cost. So this is going to definitely help us with our goal of sacrificing artifacts to create our goblins and our squirrels, or playing 0 mana things to make Thrasta value cost. Man, I wish I could remember what card. I know the card. You know what it is? It's just bugging the heck out of me. But the card I destroyed so I could play the Imperiosaur, I'm trying to think, is just driving me crazy. I wish I could Google it, but I don't want to abandon what we're doing here. Just one of those things. But as soon as I get done, I'll probably remember it. But Tormod's Crypt. It's just wonderful. Not necessarily as active now that Scam has kind of been neutered, as it were. So the 2 Blood Moons. These, if you take them out of here, you're going to miss them. If you're going to build this budget, use Alpine Moons maybe. But I would say, like, use the Blood Moons. These Alpine Moons are good for prowess and lower to the ground decks, but the things you're going to come against being like stretching out a game just maybe a turn or two longer, Blood Moon is going to be better, I think. And I've really come to lean on it a lot. Just like Pithing Needle. These 5 will find themselves in the deck because where you need Blood Moon, so too Pithing Needle can be very good. And do not put like 1 in there. It's either 3 or none. So then there's that Kildatha Rebirth. So that's our sideboard. And let's talk very quickly. Let's see here, just for a couple minutes. Like I'll show you what I would sideboard. So let's say we needed Blood Moon, 2 Tormod's Crypts, and the 3 Pithing Needles. So what we would do, I would take out 2 Chromatic Stars, 1 Mishra Bauble, and going through quickly. All right, Thrasta. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We got 4. And let me think here. Probably go another Bauble. And maybe 1 Burning Tree. And then something else. But then, I'm going to change the nature of the deck up a little bit. But in this case, like if I didn't want to dump something, I would probably always, these 2, like, depending on which one I needed more, would go in or out. Like, just because this is a 0 cost artifact doesn't mean that it takes Blood Moon's place if Blood Moon's going to jam up lands for somebody. So if this is a necessity, like, don't be like, oh, I want to convoke something, or I want to not convoke, but if I want to make Thrasta, cheat Thrasta by having these in, don't play these over Blood Moon or something just because they're 0. So if Blood Moon, if you feel like you should use it, Blood Moon should always supersede the Crypt, in my opinion. All right. Those. Perfect. So I hope that kind of answered some thoughts on why the deck is as it is. 15. Perfect. Don't want the sideboard creeping into your main board and you don't know it. You know what I mean? All right. So I think we'll do some gold fishing because this can almost be like a solitaire gold fishing game in and of itself. It's so fun to goldfish with. The Abundant Harvests are great in here. That's what the Whack deck doesn't look to use Abundant Harvest because Dino Whack doesn't have Thrasta. So Thrasta changes the nature of this deck. It makes it a little more intuitive than 8 Whack. Also, I think with our sideboard, it makes it to where like we can create a situation which whatever deck we're going against, we can get ourselves in a good position to create a situation where we've created an environment that the dinos can thrive. So that's nice. So with jamming people up and having things to keep ourselves from getting jammed up, it's good. So thanks again for joining me. I definitely appreciate it, and I hope you guys are getting some good ideas to make better decks than I make, so you can go out and make your own decks and have fun, not just Googling stuff, but actually like coming up with neat ideas and finding inspiration from others and stuff is good too. And a deck like this is pretty dang fun. And it's fun to play against too. I gotta say, like, win or lose, anybody I played against this said, "Hey, that's a fun deck to play against." I said, "Yeah, it's pretty fun to play too. It's like you're hunting dinosaurs. It's like a cryptozoological game. Like, find the dinosaur, snap a picture." But anyways, we're at 30 minutes. Sometime I'll have a video up of gold fishing with this to follow. So thanks for joining me. You guys have a good one.
Stay safe out there, be good to each other, and I guess that's all. Roger D, over and out.